Hello all, once again this is Big Ten Ben and I'm here to break down another matchup. Right now this will be my first matchup I'm going to break down this season, and yet, yes, I have started pretty late, but I'm excited to get into it. And first matchup I'll be breaking down is this week's big matchup between Nebraska and Michigan. Nebraska will be facing Michigan at Ann Arbor, where Michigan has a very long home winning streak right now under Brady Hoke, their third-year coach, I believe. Sorry if that's not accurate. I'm not sure exactly how many games they've won under Hoke at home, but it has been quite a few. And so Nebraska will certainly have their hands full with the Wolverines this weekend. Actually, tomorrow, since I'm filming the video Friday, day before game day. Well, let's get right into it. Two teams, Nebraska and Michigan, very storied programs. Their tradition goes back many years. In fact, one could say they go back as far as football can go, back to the old days of football, rugby-style football, if you will. Well, first of all, Nebraska is coming into this game after almost a miracle. Miracle is a good way to put it. Miracle win against Northwestern just a week ago. I know when I saw that play, I couldn't believe it when the Nebraska receiver took the touchdown off the tip of their third-string quarterback and won the game for Nebraska. The fans were going crazy, and I couldn't believe what the atmosphere on that game would be like for a Nebraska fan, but it would certainly be good. Michigan's coming off a quite disappointing performance against Michigan State. Their offensive line really had some issues picking up the Michigan State blitz, as well as stopping the run, and they had a pretty much an abysmal day across the board last week in East Lansing. But moving on, let's look a little bit at the numbers, breaking down the numbers. Right now, let's talk a little bit first about, shall we, how the two passing games match up. First of all, Nebraska's passing game has been a bit disappointing this year for an average Nebraska season. Right now, they rank 88th in the country. As you can see, that's a bit disappointing from a Nebraska fan point of view, for sure. Although I'm not one, I could see why that would be a bit disappointing. Right now, they're averaging 206 passing yards a game, good for, as I've said before, 88th best in the country. Michigan, on the other hand, is doing a little bit better, I would say. Right now, they rank 44th best in the nation, averaging 256.8 on the dot, 0.8 yards a game. Right now, looking at these two passing games, Michigan has the obvious numerical advantage, and once again, with the home crowd helping them, the passing game should be in the Michigan favor, with Jeremy Gallon, of course, going off against the Indiana defense and having quite a historic day for the Wolverines there when he went off against the Indiana defense only several weeks ago. But looking at the passing games, Nebraska has been quite disappointing this year. I know against Minnesota, they really struggled in the pass game to really against the Minnesota secondary, and even Northwestern. They had quite a few interceptions. If I may be wrong with that, but I think they had quite a few interceptions against the Wildcats last Saturday. So looking at these two passing games, I would give the edge to the Wolverines. Now moving forward, let's look at their rushing games, how they both sort of match up. First of all, let's take a look at the Cornhuskers. The Cornhuskers right now are running pretty darn well. They're good for 13th best in the country and are averaging right now 261.6 yards per game. As you can see, they have a top 20 rushing offense, which is quite good for not only this conference, the Big Ten, but also nationally. So that will really help them, help their chances against the Wolverines if they can get that running game going with Amir Abdullah and their Imni Cross, I believe his name is, and as well as Armstrong, their quarterback. He can also run the ball pretty well. So they have some good options there with running the ball downhill style and getting a lot of yards there. Looking at Michigan, when you take a look at Michigan's rushing game this year, it's been quite a disappointment. I know going back to years of Mike Hart, when I was just a little kid watching those games against the Minnesota Golden Gophers when Glenn Mason was coach. I remember Michigan always had crushing not only offensive lines, very good lines at that, but also a very deep stable of running backs, and they could just crush you with guys like Mike Hart, Nick Perry, I believe his name. I'm not sure his first name, but those guys were really good. And right now, I just don't think Michigan has the line play, and not only the line play, but the stable of running backs isn't even close to what it was during the years of Lloyd Carr and so on and so forth. But yeah, right now Michigan, as I've said before, they're struggling. They're only good for 79th in the country in rushing yards, to be exact, 154.9 yards a game, and that's just pretty disappointing for an average Michigan squad. So Nebraska certainly has the edge in the rushing game, and if they can get that going, however, you have to also remember that they're playing on the road and so on and so forth. So now that we've taken a look at both the main offensive strategies of both these teams, well, let's take a look at several of the big matchups of these teams. Right now, I'd say I give the passing advantage to Michigan and the rushing advantage to Nebraska. But as I've watched college football for several years now, many years to be exact, the team that's at home always usually rushes the best. I'm not sure if that's true. It's just sort of a thing that I've always seen. So Michigan could get its running game going against Nebraska. I know Nebraska struggled mightily against Minnesota several weeks ago and gave up many yards on the ground to David Cobb and several of the other Gopher Minnesota rushers. But now that we're breaking down the main offensive strategies of both teams and the main passing game, running games of both squads, let's take a look at several of the key matchups. Or as I say on my show, this will be a sort of a tradition, the three who's. First of all, the first who is whoever runs better. I believe whoever runs better really is going to have the killer edge to win this ball game. Right now, looking at it, I think Nebraska has the obvious advantage numerically and talent probably as well with Amir Abdullah and Emily Cross, and Armstrong as well. But I really think that if Michigan can step up and stop the run, that will really limit Nebraska, and vice versa. If Nebraska can get the run game going, I honestly think that he'll have a great chance to win this game. The second who is whoever looks more alive. This is sort of sounds kind of funny, but a lot of times along the sidelines you see players not involved in the game. And I know I've seen that watching Minnesota over the years. Sometimes we just don't show up, and you can see the light in the players' eyes just isn't there. They just don't want to be there, and whoever you see that, whoever you look at the sidelines and see that in their eyes, either Michigan or the Cornhuskers of Nebraska, whatever team on the sidelines just doesn't want to win, and vice versa, the team that actually does want to win, whatever team has that killer instinct and who actually wants to win and looks more alive will have a great chance to win this game with that extra emotion. Now, the third who, well, you could fill a lot of different slots with this, but honestly, I believe, I don't know, the third who is sort of like, I'd say, this is the third who. If Nebraska can overcome Michigan's home field advantage, they have a great chance as well to win this ball game. And looking at the other side of the ball, the Wolverines side of the ball, that is, if the Wolverines can hold that crucial home game advantage, then they have a great chance to beat the Cornhuskers, because the Big House is very rowdy on Saturdays, and it may not be the loudest venue. It has hundreds of thousands of people in the stands, and it sells out nearly every game. And Brady Hoke has, once again, his winning streak is very long. It had just only a short 3 or 4 year tenure at Michigan right now. So those are the three who's, and if Michigan or Nebraska can take over those three who's and those three factors and really take advantage of the other team and win those factors, they have a great chance to win, whoever that may be, the Wolverines or it may be the Cornhuskers of Nebraska. Now, moving on, let's take a look at the divisional impact of this game. Right now, the clear-cut winner of the Legends, that is, both Nebraska and Michigan, are in the same division in the Big Ten. Right now, the Spartans of Michigan State, the team that Michigan, in fact, just lost to last Saturday, right now they sit at 5-0 and 8-1, 5-0 in the conference, 8-1 overall. They're certainly in the driver's seat and will continue to maintain their momentum, but the second team right behind them is Nebraska. And now if Nebraska can take down Michigan, they're still very much in this division race as the second team. Now, looking at Michigan, right, this is almost a more must-win from them for them. Looking at just how the division stands. Right now, they're the 4th best team in the Legends division, right behind the Golden Gophers of Minnesota at 2-2 in conference and 6-2 overall. Now, if you look at this, however, it really is crucial, and it really is clear to me and to many other people that if Michigan drops this game, they have very little chance of taking home the football trophy, that is, the Big Ten championship trophy at the end of the year. So Michigan really needs to win this game, and so does Nebraska. So the division impact would be that Nebraska can remain that second-place team to Michigan State and hope to perhaps take the lead in the near future, and Michigan would continue to move up and improve their chances for a decent bowl game. So that's the divisional impact there, and the Big Ten impact as a conference. But let's move on to the last part I have, and this is the X factors. I'm going to do this at the end of every show as well. Every preview of a matchup, a football matchup, or even a basketball matchup as we move on to basketball. But I think there's one X factor for each team, one main X factor that they can exploit to help carry home the W. First of all, for Michigan, I'll start with the Wolverines. The Brady Hoke winning streak at Michigan is a very, very important factor if you look at it. I believe Michigan has won over a dozen or 15 or so a game. I'm not really sure. I apologize for not having that exact statistic with me, but it's quite a few games. They've won many, and Hoke actually has never lost at home to any team in the Big Ten or any other team in general. So what we have to look at here is that Brady Hoke, as he has been at Michigan, has never lost to anyone, and that is a big factor since the Cornhuskers are trying to beat history. They're trying to be the first team to go into the Big House and beat Brady Hoke where he's good at. That is at home in Ann Arbor. So that's the main X factor concerning Michigan. Let's move on to the Cornhuskers for their factor. What you have to look at is when Indiana played Michigan a few weeks ago, they really could score a lot of points. And what offense did they run? They ran none other than the spread offense. Also, Nebraska runs this sort of style. So when we take a look at how this matches up, I believe Indiana had 46 or 47 points on the Michigan defense, which is an astounding number against Michigan. I mean, a Michigan defense. So what we have to take a look into effect here, to be exact, is that Nebraska can exploit this Michigan defense since they run the spread. The spread will open up the Michigan secondary and make it easier for backs like Amir Abdullah to race through those holes created by the offensive line and really pick up a lot of rushing yards as well as opening up for the pass. We saw Indiana have a good offensive effort versus Michigan in the Big House nonetheless. And Nebraska I think we can all agree that Nebraska is the more talented team than Indiana. So if Nebraska can really take advantage of Michigan's deficiency against the spread, their lack of their ineptitude, so to speak, their ineptitude against the spread attack, I believe Nebraska can take this and really ride with it and score a lot of points. So both those X factors will really come into play Saturday, and we'll hope, or Nebraska fans will hope for a Nebraska win, and of course Wolverines fans will hope for a Wolverine win. But as I look at this game, my final prediction, that is Big Ten Ben's final prediction for Nebraska versus Michigan tomorrow afternoon, is 38-27, University of Michigan. The Wolverines take this one at home, and Brady Hoke's streak continues. Thanks for watching, and Big Ten Ben will be at him again this week.